Hello, everybody. Welcome to On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am your host. Happy to be here. Happy to be speaking with you once a week about movies and about whatever else is on my mind. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. That's a quote from the great Ronald Reagan. Something I like to remember as much as I can. I know it seems a little hokey, but right now, this month, it's something we got to remember, and everybody's got to be telling each other. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. Please, please remember that, and remember to vote Mitt Romney in November, because we cannot stand another 4 years of this president. And I tell you, folks, we are standing at a crossroads. And the very definition of what it means to be an American, the definition that has existed for over 200 years, that very definition is on the cusp of changing. The definition will change. People will look back, the history books will look back, and they will have to put a mark and say, this is where things changed. Or this is where things went on the road to recovery, and we start to come back and reclaim who it is we are and what we are about. We are about freedom, liberty, and justice. My guest is Gregg Turkington. Gregg, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey guys.
And our movie today is the film from Richard Gere and from Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman from 1990. And you forgot to mention, or maybe you were saving it for later, that it also stars Jason Alexander, who we all loved on Seinfeld.
And directed by?
Gary Marshall from Laverne and Shirley.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what this movie is about. This is a sort of a hooker with a heart of gold kind of movie.
Exactly. Richard Gere stars as a wealthy man who hooks up with a hooker, Julia Roberts, and it turns into quite a sweet little romance. So the film does have a twist, and even though it seems like a little bit of an unsavory theme, it's actually fun for all audiences. It's got a good message, and it's something that we highly recommend here on Cinema.
Well, it's a fun movie. It's a great romance, and it's got some good comedy, some good performances. Not to say that I'm the biggest Richard Gere fan.
He's made some good films over the years. I think he's underrated. I think the first of his earlier films that really struck a chord was American Gigolo from 1980, which was a little gritty.
Well, all I remember is him coming up. I don't remember where it was, if it was the Oscars or one of these, where he comes up and starts talking about Tibet and sort of these human rights bullshit things that he gets involved with, and all this. With all the money that we send to these countries, they can't get their house in order. Then at some point you have to cut them off and say, this is your problem. You solve it. I'm not spending any more money trying to make your lives better when we got our own problems over here.
Well, also, Pretty Woman, looking here, it grossed $463 million. So it was quite a successful movie. And it's one of those movies people watch again and again and again. It never gets old. And,
well, let me just take a minute here. Let me take a minute here, and we'll come back to Pretty Woman in a second. But I want to talk about Goldline. If anybody's familiar, Gregg, do you invest in gold? Or do you have a?
I do. If you consider my collection of videotapes gold, which I do, I would say that they're worth their weight in gold. Some of the films I've got, and in my collection is Pretty Woman. I actually have 2 copies of it.
Well, let me talk about Goldline, because if you want to actually take your money and put it into something that's actually going to grow instead of the way that, if you got to be nuts if you're putting into things like U.S. securities, government bonds, even the stock market can be a real roller coaster. But gold is the only commodity that has consistently risen in value over the years. Goldline's great. They've got a 50-year history doing this. They've been around since 1960. There's no gimmicks. They're committed to transparent, honest, and responsible pricing. And if you're a first-time buyer, Gregg, I'm sure you'd be a first-time buyer with Goldline. You have the right to a refund on your first order, and the price is guaranteed. So diversify now. Get on to goldline.com. I'll tell you what Sean Hannity said about it. He said, "For those who are thinking about investing in gold and silver, the place I highly recommend is Goldline." So it's a great way to, if you do have some extra money, if you got some just sitting around in your savings account, or you have some, you want to save for college for your kids or whatever it is, put the money in gold. You won't be sorry. Back to you, Greg, and anything else you want to add to On Cinema? Where can people get this movie?
I think you can get it most anywhere. I got mine. Well, I've got 2 copies. I got one was from an estate sale. The other, I think I got at a Kmart actually many years ago, shortly after the film came out. So, and I still have that original copy. So it's readily available. It's one of Richard Gere's finest, and of course Julia Roberts, who went on to win an Oscar. Speaking
By the way,
of
I
gold,
love this.
Oscar gold was Aaron Brockovich.
Right, it's great. I'm looking over here at these other Reagan quotes because I brought up a Reagan quote. This kills me. This is great. All great change in America begins at the dinner table. I thought that would be kind of something to chew on.
And Richard Gere in this movie, this is a little bit of trivia. If you notice a scene where he's playing the piano, he actually is quite an accomplished pianist.
Government's view. Listen to this one. Government's view of the economy should be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. So I'm just looking at brainyquotes.com here, and you type in anybody. I wonder if you could type in. Bush. I'm thinking of Glenn Beck, maybe.
Maybe get some quotes from Gary Marshall, who directed this film and who had a background in television. And
Good for you.
His daughter is.
Listen to this one. Good for you. Now you have a heart. You can be a liberal. Now couple your heart with your brain, and you can be a conservative. So, anyways, Brainy Quote. That's a great site. You put in anybody and get a bunch of quotes. Thanks for listening.